So yesterday we discussed about the gas exchange and smoking. Then we said that gas exchange system, and we said that it is responsible for the uptake of oxygen into the blood and the excretion of carbon dioxide. And what we simply said again is this gas exchange surface in the lungs is extensive, very thin, well supplied with blood and well ventilated. And the trachea and the bronchiole provide little resistance to the movement of air to and from the alveoli. So the things that you need to understand is the gross structure of the human gas exchange system, the gross structure. So we're talking about the main structure of the human gas exchange system. So we start from the nasal cavity, then from there move on to the trachea, then from the trachea we move on to the lungs, then from the lungs we move on to the bronchi, then from the bronchi, move on to the bronchioles. Then from bronchioles, move on to the alveoli. Then from the alveoli, we have the ribs, we have the diaphragm, we have the intercostal muscles, and we also have the pleural cavity, which is filled with fluid. So in a single organism, oxygen can simply diffuse from the fluid outside the cell through the cell surface membrane into the cytoplasm from a single celled organisms like of bacteria. That's how oxygen can diffuse from the cell surface mitochondria to the cytoplasm. But however, when it comes to the multicellular organisms, the likes of humans, most cells are at considerable distance from the external environment from which oxygen is obtained. So therefore, there is a need of specialized gas exchange surfaces, which is known as the alveoli. So the alveoli, it is a specialized gas exchange surfaces, and that's where oxygen can diffuse into the body and carbon dioxide can diffuse out. So the structure of the alveoli, there is a capillary bed, there is also connective tissues, there's the alveolar sac, there's alveolar duct, there's the mucous gland and the mucosal lining. Then we also have the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary veins. Then we have the alveoli and you have the atrium. So this is it. So there's a structure and you need to know the function of this structure. So we start with the trachea. So the function of this trachea, number one, it is the airway that leads from the throat to the bronchiole. It is lined with the goblet cells and cilia. I think we mentioned about the function of the goblet cells yesterday. Then we also have the lungs, and the lungs themselves, they are present in thoracic cavity surrounded by pleural membranes, and again they contains pleural fluid to allow friction-free movement between the lungs and diaphragm and ribs. That the lungs. Then from the lungs with the bronchiole, these ones they are located at the base of the trachea and they have a similar structure to it albeit narrower. So each bronchiole divided many times to form smaller bronchioles. So the bronchioles are the smallest from the bronchiole. Then the terminal bronchioles divide to form even narrower respiratory bronchioles that supply alveoli with air. So the alveoli is supplied by the air from the bronchioles. Then from the bronchioles we have a very narrow tube. And these very narrow tubes, they are about they are less than 1 micrometer. So that carry air from the bronchiole to the alveoli. So in other words, they do not contain cartilage. They do not contain cartilage. They do not contain cartilage. They do not contain cartilage, unlike the trachea and the bronchiole and also on collapse. Then we have the alveoli. These are the main site of the gaseous exchange in the lungs. Then you have the capillary network. We talk about this, an extensive network capillaries surrounds the alveoli. So how does the air moves? It moves from the trachea to the bronchiole, then the bronchiole to the bronchioles. So this what is known as the cartilage, the cartilage, the cartilage. So the cartilage, what is it all about? It is a flexible connective tissue of which the main cell type are they are known as the chondrocytes, chondrocytes, the chondrocytes. So the cartilage in the trachea and the bronchiole keep airways open and air resistance low. They also prevent the airways from collapsing, number one, from bursting, number two, from the air pressure changes during breathing. Then also the structure of the cartilage differs slightly in the bronchiole and the trachea. So we have to start with the trachea. The trachea, what does it have? It have there's the esophagus, there is also the submucous layer, there's also the lumen of the trachea, there's also the cartilage ring. It's also present that thing. Then we have the trachea. I think that's the structure of the trachea. Then from the trachea, you need to understand the structure and the way it is made up. Then also you have the bronchioles, you have the bronchioles. You need to also to know this structure when they are present on a microscope. Because the examiners, they'll just draw it and they will give you. So there's a question that you need to be familiar with. This outline the function of the cartilage in the human gas exchange system. So what is the function of the cartilage? Number one, talk about it keep airways open. Number two, provides support. Number three, it allows flexibility. Number four, again, rings allow widening during respiration. There is also another thing that you need also to understand, or another question can say, outline the function of the smooth muscle in the human gas exchange system. What is the function of the smooth muscle? So number one, contractions and relaxations. Number two, it changes diameter of the trachea, bronchioles and bronchioles. Number three, it controls airflow in the bronchioles. You need to also understand that. Then from there, you need to know the warming and the cleaning the air, or rather the warming and the cleaning of the air, how air is warmed and how air is cleaned. So the other thing you have to understand is this: air is warmed to body temperature and moisture in the nose and trachea to prevent delicate areas in the lungs from what? From drying out. So there are places in the lungs that must not dry out. So what prevents all these things is simply because it's the nose and the trachea. Then we also have what is known as the another thing, the main reason of the warming and cleaning will result in the protection is also needed against the suspended matter carried in the air, which may include dust, it can include pathogens, it can include sand, pollen, fungus, spores, bacteria, and viruses. So they are both mechanical and chemical barriers to protect against these particles. So we can protect this particle against it in two ways: mechanical ways and what? In chemical ways. So the mechanical ways, we're talking about the hairs inside the nose, and these ones they catch particles which are greater than 5 to 10 micrometer. Then we also have the chemical layer, which is known as the mucus lining nasal. This one, the passenger, but other airwaves, it's able to do that. So let's start with the mucus. So the mucus is produced by goblet cells of the ciliated epithelium. Number one. Number two, the upper part of the each goblet cell is swollen with mucin droplets, which have been secreted by the cell. Number three, the mucus is simply solution of mucin, which is composed of glycoproteins. So the glycoproteins are there in the mucus, and with many carbohydrates chains that make them sticky and able to trap inhaled particles. The last thing about the mucus is also made up of mucous glands beneath it, the what? The epithelium. So that's all about the mucus. So the chemical pollutes that can be stored in the mucus or that are found in the mucus, talk about sulfur dioxide and talk about NO2. So these guys, they can dissolve in mucus to form an acidic solution that irritates the airway lining. So those guys, they must not be involved in the mucus. Then we have the goblet cells and ciliated cells. So between the goblet cells, there are ciliated cells. And the ciliated cells, you have cytoplasmic extensions which beat rhythmically to move mucus up the throat. I think we mentioned this yesterday. Then we also have when the mucus is at the top of the trachea, it's swallowed. In other words, pathogens are destroyed by the stomach acid. So if it is swallowed, the pathogen, when they enter in the acid, we know that in the stomach there is HCl, and the purpose of the HCl, it is to what? It is to kill bacteria. Then move on to the alveoli. The alveoli, it is composed of what? It enables the movement of gaseous sections, the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. So at the end of the pathway between the atmospheric and the bloodstream at the alveoli, and they are the main site of gaseous sections, the main site of the gaseous sections. The question might comes, describe and explain how alveoli are adapted for gaseous sections. So number one, we talk about their squamous epithelium is one cell thick. It's one cell thick. The SQUAMOUS, the squamous epithelium, it is one cell thick. Then another thing is for short diffusion distance. The distance is short for diffusion distance. Number three, talk about the collectively many. So large surface area for gases for gas exchange. The surface area is large. Then number four, we talk about it is surrounded by a network of capillaries. So RBC can come very close to air maintaining and diffusion gradient. So that's how the alveoli, they are adapted for gaseous exchange. Then from the alveoli, the wall, it is made up of elastic fibers in the alveoli. They are there. Why the wall of the alveoli is elastic? Number one, it stretches during inspiration. Inspiration is to breathe in, and recall during expiration is to breathe out. So the elasticity allows alveoli to expand, allowing to volume of air breathing in, and again it is the elastic ability of the alveoli which enables them to have such a large surface area. And the question might also ask you, describe and explain the process of gas exchange between air in the alveoli and blood. So what happened there is very, very simple. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged in a process of simple diffusion. So a simple diffusion that takes place which enables the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and also passive movement from the higher to low concentration. Then we also have the air in the alveoli contains a high concentration of oxygen. The air in the alveoli, it contains a high concentration of oxygen, which is about 21% of oxygen. It is contains in the alveoli. So the blood in the capillaries has a relatively low concentration of oxygen and high concentration of carbon dioxide. So the oxygen diffuses from the alveoli into the bloodstream before being carried away to the rest of the body for aerobic respiration. And also the carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood into the alveoli and is then exhaled. So that's all about this. So need to understand about the trachea. The trachea, it contains collagen, it contains goblet cells, it also contains smooth muscle, it has cilia. Then the bronchioles, it has this cartilage, it has goblet cells, it has smooth muscles, and also a cilia. Then terminal bronchial. Terminal bronchial does not have the cartilage, does not have the globular cells. It only have the smooth muscles and the cilia. Then we have the respiratory bronchial. It does not have all the cartilage, the goblet cell, the smooth muscles. It only have the cilia. Then we have the alveoli. The alveoli does not have all those things, does not have the cartilage, does not have the globular cells, it does not have the smooth muscles, it also does not have the cilia. Then that's what makes the gaseous action. Then from the gaseous actions, we move on to smoking. So smoking, we'll talk about the tobacco smoke. So the tobacco smoke, it composed of the mainstream smoke from the filter or the mouth end, and the side stream smoke, this one from the burning tip. So there's the one from the burning tip, the one that will be burning, and we also have the other one from the mainstream smoke from the filter or from the mouth end. So when a person smokes, about 85% the smoke. So when a person smokes, about 85% the smoke released is side stream smoke. Altogether, I'll say side stream smoke is the one from the burning tip. So many of the toxic ingredients are in a higher concentration in side stream than mainstream smoke. So the concentration, or the while people they get infectious or they get diseases, the main ingredients that makes a smoking a tobacco is they are found in the what? at the side stream, not in the mainstream. So these are breathed in by passive smokers. So the passive smokers will talk about me, you smoke close to me. So if I am also smoking by passively. So the main components of cigarettes are what? We have the tar. The first one, the main component of the cigarettes, we have the tar. The tar is a mixture of components that settles on the lining of the airwaves in the lungs and stimulates a series of changes that may lead to obstructive lung diseases and cancers. So tar contains carcinogens. We discussed about this one when we were talking about the cell division and cancer. So the cancer causing components which can cause mutations in the genes that control cell division. Number two, there is carbon monoxide also in what? In the smoke. And this binds with what? With the hemoglobin. It easily binds with hemoglobin easily compared to oxygen or carbon dioxide. So binds with hemoglobin, resulting in the formation of carbox hemoglobin, decreasing the oxygen carrying capacity of the red blood cells. Then also you have the nicotine. The nicotine is the one which causes addictives. So if you consume nicotine, you result being addictive to nicotine. So effect of nicotine on the cardiovascular system. Number one, blood pressure increases. Number two, heart rate increases. Number three, platelet becomes sticky. In other words, it increases risk of thrombosis. Number four, endothelium damage. Number five, blood vessels contract. Number six, decreased blood flow to the extremities. So these are the effect of nicotine. Then from there, move on to the lung diseases. Lung diseases, we have very small particles which are less than 2 micrometer. These particles can reach the alveoli and stay there. So when they stay there, there's some deposits much lung susceptible to airborne infections such as influenza, pneumonia, and in some people can cause an allergic reaction leading to what? To asthma. So then we have the chronic. A chronic is for the long term now, the long term. So this one, it lead to the obstructive pulmonary diseases such as asthma, chronic bronchitis, and emphysema, and now common in many countries. So I start with the chronic bronchitis, then from there it results in what? Emphysema. So the chronic bronchitis, for example, tar. So what does tar does to that? It stimulates globulate cells and mucous glands to enlarge and secrete more mucus. So more mucus will be created in the what? In the epithelium lining. So the removal of mucus will start decreasing. So the moment they increase, they will start cover until the lining decreases. So this inhibits the cleaning action of the ciliated epithelium that lines airwaves. So when that happens, mucus and the pathogens in it accumulates in the bronchioles and obstructs them. So this causes smokers cough and attempt to move mucus up airways. So when that's happened, what happened? The damaged epithelium are replaced by scar tissues. So smooth muscles surrounding the bronchioles and the bronchi become thicker, causing airway to narrow and making it difficult to breathe. So infections develop in accumulated mucus, causing the lining to become inflated. So when the lining becomes inflated, too much mucus there will causes too much bacteria to be trapped. And when that happened, the lining become narrower and it becomes because of the excessive what? Mucus. So it results in inflammation. The inflammation. Then from there, if it continues, it results in what? In emphysema. So emphysema, inflammation of constantly infected lungs causes phagocytosis to the lining wares. Then when that happened, they release elastic which destroys elastin in alveoli walls to reach lungs from capillaries. So then the elastin is responsible for recoil of alveoli during expiration. So with less elastin, alveoli cannot stretch and recoil. So bronchitis collapse during excretion, trapping air and causing alveoli to burst. So when the alveoli burst, what happened? The surface area for gas exchange is reduced and blood as a result is not oxygenated properly, leading to a rapid breathing rate. So when they lead to that, blood vessels become resistant to blood flow in the lungs. And when it become that, what happened now? You have your emphysema. So you have to know the symptoms of emphysema. Number one, shortness of breath. Number two, on inspiration. Number three, rapid breathing rate, chest tightening or chest pains. We talk about fatigue, we are barren chest. So the question might add, describe the role of macrophages in the lungs. Number one, they prevention of infections. Number two, prevents pathogen from entering rest of the body. Number three, carry out phagocytosis. Number four, engulfs pathogens. Number five, macrophage are antigen presenting cells. So signs and symptoms of COPD. Fatigue or weakness, persistent cough, rapid breathing. Cough produces much mucus, barren shaped chest, blast color to skin. So the effect of all COPD on the heart: increase in power of contraction, increase in systolic BP, the right ventricle increase in thickness, insufficient oxygen reached by cardiac muscles, then the heart failure. So I think that marks the end of the lesson. So the gas exchange and what?